Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our new Blacklist video. We are here doing this every Friday until the show comes back whenever that may be. But we have a couple of season 10 topics to discuss here, including when we're going to meet Siya Malik, this new character. We'll talk about the 200th episode, wrapping up production, and then we get into our rewatch, season 1, episode 17, Ivan. It's weird. We have all these weird, elaborate names for episodes, and then we just have Ivan.
We'll get into this episode. There's not a ton of connection really going on to season 10 with this, but like Matt said, we have some season 10 tidbits for you at the beginning of this video. But before we get into it, every Friday we are here doing Blacklist. We're going to do the rewatch. We're going to continue to give you season 10 news. As soon as we have a premiere date, we will have a video up. We've seen some of the comments. You guys are really wondering, like, when is this actually premiering? And, you know, we're getting into later October here where it's kind of like, yeah, when's it coming? As soon as it comes, we will have a video up that will just be premiere date, so you will know exactly when it's coming up. But hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out, and follow us over on Instagram at Matt and Jess TV.
Okay, let's start with the season 10 stuff, as you said, and the big addition for this season is, of course, Siya Malik.
Yeah.
And, you know, we, in the midst of this rewatch, we're seeing Mira, so we're reminded a lot about Siya's mother in the process of all this. She is being played by an actress named Anya Banerjee. Apologies if I mispronounce her name, but, you know, she is a relative newcomer to the TV world. She is going to be a series regular, but since this news, the only reason this casting news really came out was because there were photos of Anya at the 200th episode celebration. Like, I wondered, okay, are we not going to be seeing this character right away? Like, what's kind of going on there?
Yeah, we hadn't really seen much of her before that, but she was in those photos and she was right up at the front, you know, with the main cast. So it was safe to assume that she was going to be a major player. And I mean, tinfoil hat theory that we've been talking about here for a while now is that we think she's going to join the task force, because right now the task force is wrestler and probably Dembe. We don't know for sure that he's going to stay there or he's going to work with Reddington. We assume he's going to stay there, but that's two people, you know, and of course Cooper, who's running the show, but we got two agents. So we kind of need somebody else to be there. Also, all the women are gone except for Bandy Baker, who's, you know, in the show here and there. So we need somebody else.
Here's the good news. In a post that Anya put on Instagram, she did indicate that the 200th episode was her 4th episode that she is on the show, and it just so happens the 200th episode, provided they don't do any weird stuff like airing it out of order or whatever, it is the 4th episode of season 10. So just by our Sherlock Holmesian power of deduction here, she is in
grade 1 math.
She is in the premiere. She will be there from the very start. So the Blacklist, they wasted no time at all giving you this character.
Yeah, which is really exciting. And it seems like the 200th episode is all wrapped up now as well.
I really hope we get some more stuff on that episode before it airs. Like, there probably aren't a lot of shows that are premiering now on network TV that are going to get to 200 episodes. I'm not saying that to be pessimistic. It's just like live ratings are down across the board. It's harder and harder to succeed as a network show these days. So I really want this to be big, epic, dramatic, like, you know, my pipe dream that will not probably happen because Amir's on Broadway, but I would love an Amir cameo in there. I would love other people to show up.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be on the 200th episode, but we talked about this in our past video. We'll link it for you below. That he may be coming back. I mean, he was at the 200th celebration. He even held up the back of his chair that still has his name on it, where he's like, hey, they're kind of holding my spot. And, you know, he's not going to be on Broadway forever. That show will be wrapping up, and that could open him up to coming back, should that be what he wants to do. And I think he knows how much all of us want to see him back on the show. I mean, he's such a tentpole to this show. Like, watching us lose him at the end of last season, like, I felt my heart. I was just like, ow, like, I don't like this. So I'm hopeful that we will see him again in some capacity this season.
Well, now that we are talking about season 10 and moving into our rewatch at the same time, here's the big question for Ivan. Will Ivan return in season 10? Because theoretically, he's still out there. He ain't even in jail. Like, he could just pop up at any given point.
Yeah, and the thing about this episode is that it was like some kid that was like pretending to be him, whatever, not connected to Reddington. That kid, no, nothing. Just it's tough because sort of the real blacklister of the week is just like not. There's nothing there.
No, that's the truth. That there's no real reason for Ivan to come back in unless like Reddington actually needs like someone with his skill set. But we're talking a lot here about like hacking in this episode. He's got Tadashi. Like, you don't even need Ivan. Reddington has someone on his own team that can basically do everything that Ivan could do. So why? Why does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this episode was about Liz figuring out that Tom is not who he says he was. I remember this being a really controversial episode when it aired. For all the years afterwards, which is why there's been such a divide in the fandom with the Tom character, because we ended up in a situation where Liz figured out sort of this home base where everyone was spying on her and all this sort of stuff, and Tom was there cleaning it up, and she didn't see who he was, but he punched her in the face. And that's something that a lot of the fan base was just like, nah, no matter what you do, nah, you can't be redeemed. Like, there's no coming back from something like that, which I understand. I mean, he's punched his wife in the face. Yes, yeah. I understand that he's doing a job and he needed to not be caught and whatever, but like, there's no other option, Tom. Like, come on. So even rewatching it, it was a very tough scene to swallow.
It is hard to reconcile that, Liz and Tom, get together again down the road in like a, we know all the secrets sort of way, and they're more on the same page. It's still like, you guys still had this happen in the Ivan episode, and John Bokenkamp and John Eisendrath, unfortunately, they're not here right now. If they were, I would love to ask them the question, did they know they were going to do that with Liz and Tom a couple of seasons later when they made this episode? Because if they didn't know and they just sort of came to this idea later on, this episode probably posed a really big problem for them.
Yes, and for a lot of us that watched that episode, even some of it with like Tom throwing the toy there at the scene to sort of try to burn it away or whatever. Why was he carrying that around? Why would he bring it to where he was like, it was so weird at the time that I first watched it, and it didn't get any less weird in this episode where I was just like, this guy has been so careful for all these years that he's going to bring something from his house to this place. Why wouldn't he have just left it at the house? I know that they needed to connect it so that Liz could be like, ooh, but I was just like, no, like, that doesn't make any sense.
It's weird. Tom, I'm just going to guess, Tom, you had a bad day. Maybe you didn't get maybe you didn't sleep well the night before. Maybe, you're starting to panic because of everything that happened with John. I don't know. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. Like, the moment in this episode that I really do like and sticks with me is with Liz and Reddington and the music box.
Yes.
At the end of all of it, because it's another reminder that, even though this Reddington is not seemingly the real Reddington, as much fun as it was to have that theory for many years, he clearly knew so much about the real Reddington and knew so much about Liz to the extent that he is aware of everything. With the music box, he's aware of everything, of just like all these little tidbits of Liz's childhood, of her upbringing. And I think this is really great sort of ammunition for the theory that this is, the real Reddington's brother or some other sort of secret family member, like someone who would have been around or at least would have heard some of these stories.
Yeah, it's such a specific private story where Liz has this memory of her dad holding her, telling her that everything's gonna be okay, and playing and humming this song to her that obviously when we all first watched the show was like, oh, well, obviously this has to be her dad because he's saying the same things to her now. He's made this music box with the same song. It's such a private moment that chances are only people that were in the house with her actual father doing this would even know that this existed, because this isn't really like a moment that I would think Reddington, the real father, would go and tell somebody about, to be like, you know what I do for my kid when she's like really worried? I hum this particular song to her and tell her everything is going to be okay. Why would you share that information? It feels like information that either is just between them and only they know about it. So that would have to be meaning that this is her father, or that he just knows enough about Liz that maybe Liz told somebody, or someone that had to have been around while he was doing it and overheard.
I don't even know if the real Reddington would have ever said this to Katarina, and I could be really wrong about some of that stuff. But
yeah, unless it was like a situation where he was trying to tell her, be like, hey, you know what works? If she's really upset, this works. Hum this song sort of thing, and hold her and tell her it'll be all right. Like, that's sort of the only way I could really see this private thing between them being shared. If it's kind of like a, hey, I can't be here right now, she's freaking out, this is the way to deal with it.
I think another interesting component to all of this is it's so easy to think about what Reddington is doing with Liz as following a specific duty of making sure he protects her. But this just also shows an element of love, that he does like really legitimately care about her. And this is more than just I'm fulfilling a promise or I'm doing something somebody else wants me to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, we will be back here next week. More Blacklist season 10 news. Fingers crossed.
Yep.
We'll see if there's another rewatch. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you here next time.